Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. I am in Srinagar, Kashmir, India. So, again, I don't have the luxury of having a studio because I am on the road all the time. So, if you hear any noise coming from outside, I do apologize, but there's serious renovation going on around me. Okay, welcome back to my old subscribers and a very warm welcome to the new ones, and thank you to all my friends who have shared my channel because I see there's a few newcomers, new subscribers, which obviously came from you guys. So thank you once again. That's what friends are for, right? We help each other out, I hope. Okay, so today I want to do a video which falls under my playlist, biblical series. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you will see a playlist. When you go down the playlist, you'll see one that says biblical series. Okay. Now, let me also just put a disclaimer out there first. Although I am a follower of Christ, which is different from Christian, I'm not going to get into that again because I usually go into that in my other videos. But if anyone wants to know about that again, let me know and I will explain again what that means. So I'm a follower of Christ, and when it comes to what I know about the biblical scriptures, religion, etc., is not at an expert level. Okay, I am just going to explain my understanding of things that happen in the world, okay, and how it applies to religion, and especially in this case to Christianity or just to people who follow Christ. Okay, so this comes from a video that I watched, a podcast, the JRE, the Joe Rogan podcast, where he was interviewing Matt Walsh. So if you don't know who these people are, you can go and Google them. They have YouTube channels and Spotify and Rumble and Locals and all these other social media platforms. Okay, so in this podcast, Joe, because Matt Walsh is a Christian, and in the podcast, Joe Rogan, who is an atheist, asked him about because there is the thing in the Bible where it says that homosexuality is a sin. Okay, homosexuality meaning a man or a woman. So in the Bible, normally they just use the word man because man means mankind, and mankind means male and female. It says man cannot lie with another man as with a woman. So if it was woman, it would be woman cannot lie with another woman as with a man. So Joe Rogan was pushing back at that because he was saying, but why would this be a sin when it is God who created homosexuals? Okay, so this is what I know about biblical scripture and how I interpret it according to the law of God. Okay, because when Matt Walsh answered, he gave some answer that was just not satisfactory to me, at least, as a follower of Christ, as someone who reads scripture all the time and who understands scripture. So this is what I want to say about this whole thing, right? So disclaimer first, you might be triggered. If you are, all I can say is I'm sorry, but on the bright side, I'll get over it. But this is life, okay? Now, these are not words that I'm just making up or laws that I'm making up. This is actual biblical scripture that I am going to talk about. So I might not be citing any biblical scripture today because I'm really not in the mood for that, but this is because I don't want the video to be very long. Right, so another disclaimer. So remember, and I have to read from my notes. So whether you believe in the existence of God or not, okay, this doesn't matter whether you believe in the existence of God or not. But this is what followers of Christ meaning people who just follow the way of Christ, which is the Tao of Christ, which is the path of Christ, and also those who are Christians, who follow the actual doctrine and all that organized religion thing that goes along with it. But this is what they believe. So Rogan said, God created these people. So why is it a sin for them to be like that when that is how he created them? So first thing is, in scripture it says that God created man, and again when I say man it means mankind, okay? When it's man or woman I will tell you exactly if it really means man, which is male, or woman, which is female. But God created man in his own image. So then the first thing we have to ask is, what is God's image, right? So what is God's image? So God's image is everything that is good, everything that is righteous, pure, perfect. That is God's image. And this is related to the spirit, because God is a spirit. God is not a body. God is a spirit. So when it says that God created man in his own image, it means that he created the spirit of God in man. Not the body, the spirit of God in man. Okay? That is what it means. So let me just see if I can get there is an interpretation online where it says, you see, so this is how you have to do things. You don't just simply just talk. You must know how to analyze things and how to apply critical thinking to your analysis. So what does it mean that humanity is created in God's image? This, I don't know how you say it in Latin, imago Dei, something like that. On the last day of creation, God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, which is Genesis 1, verse 26. Thus, he finished his work with a personal touch. So, okay. So, having the image or likeness of God means, in the simplest terms, that we were made to resemble God. Okay. So, since God is a spirit, there is no body. That would mean the resemblance has got nothing to do with physique. It's got to do with the spirit of God. And like I've said before, we already know what the spirit of God is. Okay? So remember, God created Adam and Eve. So Adam did not resemble God in the sense of God's having flesh and blood. Scripture says that God is spirit, John 4, verse 24, and therefore exists without a body. However, Adam's body did mirror the life of God insofar as it was created in perfect health and was not subject to death. So that is the likeness that God created us in, which means when he created Adam and Eve, he created physically. First of all, he created in his image the spirit of his image, of God's image, which is, like I mentioned before, righteous, etc., etc. Same as in Eve. When it comes to the physique, again, he created the physique, the body, perfectly, which means the body was in perfect condition when it comes to health, to how it functions, every cell, every chromosome, every muscle, everything about the body ran perfectly. The mind, everything was perfect. There was no flaw at all. Okay? That is how we were. That is the second thing I want to talk about, which is how are we created in God's image? Okay? So we get that. We are created in his image, spirit, because God has no body. But when the spirit has to be contained in something. Like when you take water, you have to put it in something to hold it so that it has form. So the form is the body. And the body was created perfectly. There was no flaw at all. Okay? So that is how we were created. So who did God create and how did he create these human beings? Like I mentioned before, he created Adam, Eve, perfect health, perfect bodies, but in his image, which is the spirit. And on top of that, with the perfection, we were given free will. He could have just made us robots, like I play the Sims game, where you can play with autonomy on or autonomy off. Most Sims players, we play with autonomy on, because we want our Sims, when we're busy with something else, we want our Sims to have free will. We don't want to just be standing there and waiting, and then we have to control everything, go eat, go to the toilet, sleep, interact with this person. No, we want the sim to have free will, free autonomy, so that the sim can just do as the AI has programmed it to do. That's what makes it fun. So this is how God created us. We were created with free will. And we must also remember, God created everybody, everything, and on the seventh day he rested, which means everything that he created in the first 6 days, he had his hands in it. On the seventh day, he rested. That means now continue evolving. So when it comes to man and woman, he rested and said, go ahead with your free will. Do as you are supposed to do and live in the way that I have created you. Okay? Right. So when did these humans become flawed? Because remember, humans were perfect, but they did become flawed. And when did they do that? They did that when Eve, instead of obeying God's law, because there is God did give some laws to humans, like he said, you will be masters of a master over all the other animals. But he made one specific command, and that was that you are not to eat from the tree of life. You cannot eat the fruit of life. That's all. And probably did that as a test. I don't know. But anyway, what happened is Adam and Eve disobeyed. Eve listened to the snake, who was Satan, which in other words disobeyed God, ate the apple, and Adam also, instead of listening to God, he listened to woman, to Eve. So in other words, God is supposed to be here, Eve is supposed to be here. But instead of listening to a higher authority, like most of us should do, he listened to woman, to flesh, to mere man. Man meaning mankind. To mere man he listened. You see, Eve listened to the devil. Satan, he listened to her. Nobody was listening to God. So, of course, when you don't obey, when you disobey, there will be punishment. So what was the punishment? Before that, okay, so they became flawed, which means they brought this onto themselves. Nobody's forced. Even Satan didn't force Eve. He enticed her. She could easily have said, yeah, you're right, but I'm listening to God. I'm not listening to you because God is the highest authority, not you. I don't care who you are. Yeah, very interesting what you're saying. Sounds enticing, sounds cool, sounds like something I would like to do, but no. I adhere to the will of God and I adhere to the laws of God. You see, so she didn't. So what that means is, and same with Adam, he instead of listening to God, he listened to her. That means they brought it onto themselves. They have now brought this, they are now flawed, and this they brought onto themselves. God did not put it there and said, take this. No, they brought it onto themselves. They took it onto themselves. So what is the punishment that God inflicted on them? First thing God did was he removed himself from mankind. Because before, God walked with Adam and Eve through the Garden of Eden. Now remember, God is spirit. It doesn't mean he was there with his legs and his body sweeping up a storm and drinking water. No, no, no. He moved with us, which means he was with them. That's why it's God the Father, God who created us. He was with us. But what he did was then, he removed himself from us. He was now, he's reigning everywhere, not next to us, but everywhere. Okay, so that was the first punishment. Second thing is, he now made us responsible for our own actions. It was now, not that he made, we actually did it ourselves, but he could have put his hand in and said, no, don't worry, I will fix it. No. It was now because you disobeyed, you have made yourself imperfect. After I have made you so perfect, you have made yourself imperfect. So now I'm going to sit back, leave you to do as you please with your free will. And with your free will, whatever you do, you need to take responsibility for these actions. That is what he did, right? So he's got nothing to do with this. You cannot blame God for things that mankind did. They brought this upon themselves. Okay? So, but even in doing all of this, leaving us out on our own with our own free will to do as we want and take responsibility for our own actions, there is hope, because he did give us a path, or you can call it a way or a dao, to redemption and salvation. That means to get back to him, to that perfect way he intended us, he created us to be. And he did this through Jesus Christ. Now, this is if you're a Christian or you're a follower of Christ. I don't know, other people have other, like the Jews and the Muslims, they might have some other thing. But when it comes to Christianity and followers of Christ, through Christ, he has given us a way and a path, or a Tao. Tao just means path, to be redeemed and to salvation. And all you have to do is you have to follow that path. And that path, on that path, there are laws that you have to obey. And if you want to walk with God and eventually be with God, you have to walk this path, the Tao or Tao of Christ. Because Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes before the Father except through me. So that is the path. So which means whatever laws has been laid down, you have to follow. Irrespective of what flaws you have, what imperfections you have, because now we are all imperfect, we all have original sin. No one is perfect anymore except Christ, and you can follow his path in order to reach eternal salvation. That's what it means. So, which means if you are living a lifestyle or living a way of life or doing things that is not on the path, All of this is on you, and you cannot blame. Okay, now we have the azan going on there, which is quite interesting. I'm talking about God, and this happens. It's wonderful. Okay, so which now what that means then is that where I got distracted is that, yeah, you have to be on this path. And if you are not on this path, you have to take responsibility for your own actions. We are all flawed. Every single one of us has something that we have to fight every single day. It is not just homosexuals, it is not just drug addicts, alcoholics, pedophiles, rapists, whatever issue you have. We, every single person on this earth has a struggle, but there is a path that you can walk to relieve yourself from these struggles. And because suffering is a part of the human experience, it is a big part of the human experience, and you have to take your cross and bear it. So whatever flaws you have, flaws meaning anything you have that was created by God, which means, as we spoke in the beginning, in the image of God and in the perfection of God. So perfection like in health, in body, and then in the spirit, which is more the creation. How you were created in his image is the spirit. But when it comes to the body, you are also created perfectly. We are not perfect anymore. Nobody. So you have to take your cross and bear it, and you cannot blame God if you are suffering, because God has given you a clear path on how to relieve, to eliminate that suffering. And you have free will. So with that free will, you can choose to walk the right path or choose not to. But if you do choose not to, do not blame God, because he made you perfect. You messed up. And then he said, whew, you're on your own, but you can still come back to me if you follow the correct path. I know for me that's very simple. So I don't know what other people think about this, because like I said, I'm an expert in this, but this is how I live my life, how I accept my flaws, my imperfections, my sins. I never blame God because I know it's all on me. Every single thing is on me. So I would really appreciate feedback, comments, likes, dislikes. If you would like to share my video, that would be good. It would be good if you can subscribe, and so that we can have more of this kind of videos. But also I would like discussion, because at the moment there's no discussion. It's just me putting on a video and that's it. Nobody says anything. So I hope everybody have a good day, and until we meet again, cheers.